See, the thing is, we don't know how strong Mitsuki Sage Mode is. Because think about it. Think about it, right? Boruto's stronger than Code, who's stronger than V2 Karma Jigen, right? So he's above V2 Karma Jigen. It's above Code. Just because Mitsuki couldn't beat Boruto doesn't mean like he's super weak. He could just be like Code tier or V2 Jigen tier or like Naruto and Sasuke tier. Like it could be one of those tiers like on the bottom. He doesn't necessarily got to be weak as fuck, but I mean, let's see what he got to say. That's the loudest fuck. Hold on. Holy fuck.
Yo! It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another BORUTO 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today, I want to pull up a chair and I want to talk to you guys about this Boruto versus Mitsuki battle and why I think after years of Boruto fans screaming at the top of their lungs that they wanted more Mitsuki in the Boruto manga, that now that we've been given an extended fight from Mitsuki, he's being underappreciated by fans during the events of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. The Mitsuki situation is one that I personally find to be a bit baffling, and if I'm being honest here, I don't fully understand some of the outrage surrounding Mitsuki's character. For the longest time, people have said they wanted to see Mitsuki do something more than just sit in the background like a tree decoration. We haven't seen him fight in the manga for a whole 4 years. You have to go all the way back to 2020 when the Boro fight happened for the last time Mitsuki had a battle in the manga of any real significance. At the time, there wasn't really any narrative reason to have him involved in anything that happened after that Boro fight. I personally don't count that sparring match with Kawaki because all he did was use the body modification jutsu when Kawaki suggested that they spar instead of doing the chakra control training that Sarada wanted, and Mitsuki felt like an afterthought in that chapter. Because both Sarada and especially Boruto, they had more action in that chapter than Mitsuki. Mitsuki was a background decoration. Mitsuki's involvement there was equal to Naruto pulling Konohamaru back and having Konohamaru sit out in timeout because Naruto basically said, sit down somewhere before you hurt yourself because Kawaki will beat the brakes off of you, and we don't have anyone here that can use medical ninjutsu to heal you. The battle with Code, Mitsuki would have been out of place during that stuff in Boruto Naruto Next Generations because too much of the narrative was focused around the three boys who had their lives changed by having the Karma Seal. Boruto, who had Momoshiki's Karma, Code, who had Ishiki's incomplete Karma, and Kawaki, who was secretly in possession of Ishiki's Karma but didn't know it at the time. There wasn't a narrative need for Mitsuki there. When the whole hunt for Kawaki thing was occurring, we saw Mitsuki once again use body modification to restrain Kawaki so Sasuke could make the threat that he would cut off his head if Kawaki resisted, and he had the moment where he used his chakra snakes on Boruto after Omnipotence happened, but neither of those were anything close to a fight because Kawaki ran away and Boruto ran away. Neither of them tried to put up a fight. When they got word that Code had claw marks in the village in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, Kawaki flew off and he left Mitsuki sitting there like you leave a sneaky link on red after you get tired of hitting it. At the very least right now, with what we got in the manga, we see Mitsuki actually mixing it up in a fight with Boruto, and it's come after we've gotten a pretty good grasp on how strong Boruto is, in particular base Boruto. It's a delayed payoff for Mitsuki because had Mitsuki tried to chase after Kawaki when they learned Boruto's back, you run the risk of the same thing happening that happened to Kawaki. Boruto says, I don't have time for this, and he's left sitting there like an afterthought, which you can't have happen when you have a character like Mitsuki so overcome with bloodlust that even someone like Kawaki was complaining about the intensity of it. That's not something that can happen. That's why you save that fight for the chapter we just got. By the story taking the route that it did, allowing us to see Boruto dog out Code, someone who's stronger than Jigen, which the last time Boruto, chronologically in the timeline, Boruto was too weak to fight Code on his own, which is why he ran away at Sasuke's orders. Like Code revealed to us before Boruto Chapter 5's flashback showed us the context of what happened that Code referred to, which there's still a lot of context missing around that fight, and afterwards, years later in the timeline where we're currently at, we see Boruto fighting against the evolved Shinju made from both the combination of Code's chakra and the chakra of those who the Ten Tails ate. We now have enough to properly measure where the Sage Mode Mitsuki is by looking at Boruto in that fight. Boruto in base was toying with Code, but he also used the Rasengan Uzehiko, which we can assume until we see otherwise, that's Boruto's strongest jutsu in his arsenal. When he fought against the Shinju, Boruto did have to use some effort, but I think we all can agree you chalk that more so up to Boruto being caught off guard more than once in that fight. He went into that battle believing that he was going there to destroy the Ten Tails, which at the time the Toad Summon confirmed form was still intact and hadn't yet broken apart into the various Shinju that we saw. He at most thought that he was going to have to destroy the Ten Tails and then have to fight against Code, which would have been a layup given the condition that the Uzuhiko Rasengan left Code in. Instead, we get greeted with multiple enemies whose powers he didn't know, whose strength level Boruto didn't know. He went into that fight completely blind. Just when it appeared that he had a firm grasp on the situation with the Bug Shinju, all of a sudden the Sasuke Shinju, he pops out. Then, just as he gets a grasp on that, the Moegi and Jura Shinju, they pop out as well. He was quickly finding himself in a Jiraiya versus Pain situation where the numbers were increasing as the fight went on, and he had no intel, and somewhere Kashin Koji, watching through the eyes that Toad, was probably getting genetic flashbacks of Jiraiya's last moments, getting more Black Rods penetrating them than a Prime Lisa Ann used to get back in the day. However, the experiences there at least allowed us to get some measure of how strong some of the Shinju were. Bug Shinju was strong enough that Boruto needed to use Lightning Release, and Sasuke Shinju was strong enough that Boruto needed to use a Rasengan to push him back. We have some data that you can start compiling here when it comes to Mitsuki now, and what he did against Boruto. Was he strong enough that Boruto had to fight him at full power and base? Obviously not. Base Boruto is being kept at a level where we can't fully gauge how much stronger he is than Jigen, but we clearly know he is significantly stronger than Jigen based off what we've seen. But with Boruto versus Mitsuki, we saw that Sage Mode Mitsuki was at least strong enough that Boruto saw him and looked disappointed. He was going to have to get rough with his friend, but words are one thing and actions are another. In that fight, Boruto never actually landed a hit on Mitsuki. He took mostly a defensive stance in that battle, opting to try and talk some sense into Mitsuki, and you can tell that Boruto was more reserved in terms of his approach. He gathered intel first to make sure that Mitsuki came alone, and he proceeded to use necessary exertion of force to handle the situation. When Mitsuki used Shadow Clones, Boruto cut them down. When he used Lightning Release, Boruto could have used Wind Release to counter, since strategically he has Wind Release, and Wind Release is superior to Lightning Release. And as we learned in the Akatsuki Suppression Arc, Boruto could have taken Mitsuki out right then and there by countering with the appropriate chakra nature. The guy clearly improved enough where Boruto not only sheathed his sword, but was able to see the hand seal that was woven by Mitsuki, which in turn allows him to see which chakra nature jutsu Mitsuki's using. Then weave his own hand seals in response and then counter at the exact same time. If Boruto had time to do all of that, he could have just used Wind Release Jutsu and taken Mitsuki down, but Boruto opted to use a Lightning Release Jutsu that had just enough force to cancel Mitsuki's attack, and then, instead of going for a killing blow, he merely placed his sword at his neck and tried to talk him down. Boruto never laid a hand on Mitsuki. I don't think that this showing by Mitsuki is anything to be ashamed of. He went up against someone stronger than Jigen, albeit a character who was holding back and trying not to go on the offensive and in that fight, but Boruto wasn't out here dodging the attacks in the way that showed there was a massive gap between base suppressed Boruto and Mitsuki being large as night and day. Boruto led Mitsuki around in that battle, similar to how the anime version of Naruto vs. Delta went, which is much clearer in the anime continuity that Naruto still had a lot more left in the tank than the manga depiction, but Boruto still used a decent amount of effort to avoid the attack. But again, he wasn't going all out. What that tells us is that in Mitsuki's 3 years of training, it wasn't in vain. The narrative was clearly setting up Sarada and Mitsuki to become strong enough to fight against Otsutsuki level fighters, and at the back end of Boruto Naruto Next Generations, it was making it clear that Jigen was going to be the floor that was going to be used for various characters as measuring sticks coming out of the time skip, and that for characters we actually saw battle, Baryon Naruto and Ishiki, they were going to be the brass handles that were at the top that everyone was reaching for and eventually pulled themselves up above. Part 1, Boruto made it pretty clear that Sarada and Mitsuki at the tender age of 12 were growing at a rate faster than the Boruto Kage did.
Hold on. Just to reiterate a point real fast, because I do want to say something. What do you think is that?
Measuring sticks coming out of the time skip, and that for characters we actually saw battle, Baryon Naruto and Ishiki, they were going to be the brass handles that were at the top that everyone was reaching for and eventually pulled themselves up above. Part 1, Boruto made it pretty clear.
It's these niggas, bro. Baryon, Naruto, Ishiki, they're the top. They're the strongest in the verse so far. Ishiki 1, Burial Naruto 2. You could say, no, wait, hold on. I forgot about Shibai, but Shibai's not a fighter. Shibai's like a 4D god or whatever. His body is on a different dimension, whatever. He's not a fighter. So I'll say Ishiki 1, Burial Naruto 2. You could put Boruto at 3, but you know, Boruto and Burial Naruto are interchangeable. We don't know how much stronger than Jigen Boruto is, but Code was stated to be significantly stronger than Jigen. That's why he got his limiters put on. So he doesn't have his limiters on, and Boruto bodied the shit out of him. So he has to be leagues stronger than Jigen. Leagues. Because he's not even using the karma. And then if he uses the karma, he's going to be cracked out. But there's this theory that he's not using his karma because he doesn't want Momoshiki to take over, basically. But other than that, yeah. I'll say Boruto's the third strongest in the verse. Probably third. See, because we just don't know. See, if we know if he was close, if we know he was closer to Ishiki and Burial Naruto, then the karma will put him on top of both of them. But we just don't know. We really don't know. All we can say is he's above V2 Karma Jigen, and he bodied the shit out of Naruto and Sasuke with the Nine Tails, with the Susanoo, with the Rinnegan. He bodied both them niggas, adult versions of him. So just think of what Boruto can do if he's bodying Code, who is stated to be stronger than Jigen, and he's bodying with no sweat, no karma, no nothing. Boruto's probably strong as shit. Strong as fuck. That's why I would put Mitsuki around. See, I will put him at like the Naruto Sasuke level, like when they was fighting V2 Karma Jigen. I'll put him around that level because Boruto didn't land a hit. He wasn't trying to land a hit, but he did make him dodge and move around and shit like that. I don't know. I feel like it would be realistic to put him around that level.
Sword and Mitsuki at the tender age of 12 were growing at a rate faster than the Boruto Kage did at that same age, and that their floor in the future was going to be higher than the Boruto Kage's ceiling. And even Kishimoto in the Naruto one-shot manga for Mitsuki, Orochimaru flat out says that Sage Mode Mitsuki's full power is stronger than Boruto era Orochimaru, and Boruto era Orochimaru is no slouch. We're seeing that Mitsuki has started to reach
Wait, what he say?
Boruto era Orochimaru is no full power is stronger than Orochimaru flat out says that Sage Mode Mitsuki's full power is stronger than Boruto era Orochimaru, and Boruto era Orochimaru is no slouch. We're seeing that Mitsuki has started to reach into that potential that Orochimaru stated, which is exactly what Naruto predicted in the anime episode 24, where he was the only Kage at that meeting that didn't dismiss the next generation, saying that while they may be soft now because of the times, he had faith in this new generation of kids that they had more potential than the Kage sitting at the table with Naruto. Mitsuki clearly got strong enough to fight against an otsutsuki level threat, which probably happened via training with Kawaki for 3 years during that time skip. Iron sharpens iron. Battle Shonen have used that method.
You think Kawaki trained with Mitsuki? Kawaki's kind of a hard ass. You got to stick up his ass. I don't know. You really think Kawaki trained with Mitsuki? Really? Really? I don't see it. I don't see Kawaki training with Mitsuki. I don't know. That will have to be something that somebody has to discuss with me or something, because what we seen of Kawaki so far in the manga, he's such a hard ass. Like, he gotta stick up his ass. He don't want nothing to do with Mitsuki. Stop following me. This, that, and the third. Like, I wouldn't see Kawaki training with this nigga. I feel like Kawaki will be annoyed that he asked to train, honestly. Well, yeah, somebody can explain that to me.
Method to power creep characters before through various time skips. I can say that for me personally, I went in this chapter expecting Boruto to demolish Mitsuki in a fight and then leave out so he could talk to Shikamaru in secret, but I figured Boruto would only use enough effort to fight Mitsuki to make him realize the truth, which that did happen, but I thought that Boruto would knock Mitsuki out at some point. I didn't expect him to leave him upright, which in hindsight, that's in character for Boruto. He was never going to leave Mitsuki unconscious. He didn't get bitched like his name was Shisui and Boruto was Danzo. He didn't get the sonic rings and stardust slapped out of him like a certain suit-wearing individual who likes to tell unfinished stories. He did just enough that we know that he's improved to a pretty decent degree. And whenever Jura and those other Shinju pop up, I don't think anyone's going to be shocked if Mitsuki does halfway decently against one of them. Boruto was clearly used to show off some of their power for a reason. It was to give us a proper measuring for the future for other characters that engage with them. I get it, Mitsuki fans wanted to see Mitsuki be strong enough that he was shown throwing hands with Boruto and going back and forth with him, but that would, even by shonen power creep standards coming out of time skips, that would be a bit of a reach, which Boruto is already giving Dragon Ball a run for the money in terms of how characters have powered up. Even by those standards, I think that that might be a bit too much. I think that this is fine. I think it was a well done representation in the chapter, which you can see my thoughts on the chapter itself by watching the review you see on the screen here.
Video was great. Mitsuki Sage Mode has not been ruined in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. I don't know why he named the video that. I guess he just wanted to talk about the events and how... I guess he just wanted to talk about Mitsuki. I don't know why he named the video that, but... Nah, yeah. Video was great. Mitsuki strong as shit. Boruto strong as shit. This manga is, like, really cool. Like, what the fuck, bro? Jesus Christ.